everyone, and welcome to today's OpenSolar webinar. Plug the leaks in your sales funnel with new OpenSolar sales tools. My name is Andrew McGugan, General Manager for the Americas at OpenSolar. I've been in the industry for 14 years and started my career in residential sales. We're really excited to show you all the new tools today. They're ones that I wish I had had early in my career. Also, big thank you for everyone for joining the call. It's so exciting to see so many US Solar pros online right now. Before we get started, please use the chat to say who you are, where you're joining from, and what kind of work your team focuses on. The chat will remain active throughout the session, so feel free to submit your questions as we go. We're focused on one practical problem: quotes that should keep moving but don't. Sometimes the customer needs a clear proposal. Sometimes they need a buying option that fits. Sometimes they are ready to move forward, but the final steps create more follow-up. We'll show you where those leaks happen and how the latest OpenSolar sales tools can help your team move from proposal to payment with fewer handoffs. Let's start with why this matters for US Solar pros right now. In the US, customers need clear ways to buy. A customer may like the system, they may understand the savings story, they may agree that solar makes sense, but the quote can still slow down when they ask, "How do I actually buy this?" That question matters more in the US right now. Higher interest rates and tighter credit were already putting pressure on residential solar demand. Then the federal homeowner incentive backdrop changed after 2025. That doesn't mean this needs to become a tax law conversation. Customers should always check eligibility and tax requirements with a qualified advisor. But it does mean that pros should be clearer about ownership and payment paths with their customer. That could mean cash, a loan, a HELOC, or a lease or PPA where relevant. It also means showing the numbers more clearly. Monthly payment, term, APR, total repayable, and estimated savings matter now more than ever. The customer needs to compare the trade-offs before they can move forward, and that is where quotes can start to leak. That's the idea behind today's session: plugging the leaks in your sales funnel. For pros in the US, the biggest leak is the buying path. The customer may not be saying, "I do not want solar." They may be saying, "I do not know which way to buy this right now." Today, we will look at three leaks. The first leak is value. The customer struggles to see what they are buying and why the proposal is worth choosing. The second leak is the buying path. The customer cannot find an option that works for their budget or ownership preference. The third leak is the final step. The customer is ready to move forward, but checkout, payment, and signature create more follow-up. In the US, it's the second leak that matters most. The customer may be interested, they may see the value, but if they cannot compare cash, finance, and third-party ownership routes clearly, momentum slows down. That is what the demo will show next: how to present a clear proposal, compare finance and ownership options, and carry the customer through checkout and payment with fewer handoffs. You will see a mix of familiar OpenSolar workflows and newer checkout capabilities that we've invested in over the last few months, all designed to help your team move forward from proposal to payment with fewer handoffs. Legacy proposal configurations and checkout flows will begin sunsetting later this year, so we recommend moving over now. That way your team is ready before your busiest sales moments.
Hi everyone, I'm Danielle, part of the team here at OpenSolar. One quick point of order. The chat will remain active throughout this session, so feel free to submit your questions as we go. Andrew just explained why US customers need clearer ways to buy solar. A customer may understand the system and see the potential savings, but the quote can still slow down when they're comparing cash, loans, HELOCs, leases, PPAs, and what each route means for their monthly cost and ownership. I'm going to show you how OpenSolar's sales and conversion tools help address the three leaks Andrew introduced. First, we'll look at how to make the proposal and its value easier for the customer to understand. Then, we'll focus on the biggest US leak, helping the customer compare ownership and payment options and find a buying path that fits. Finally, we'll follow the customer through checkout from finance and contract signing to paying the deposit. Let's start with the proposal. The first leak happens when the customer is interested, but the proposal doesn't make the recommendation easy enough to understand or compare. For US customers, that means they may have questions about the system, equipment, expected performance, savings assumptions, or how solar fits with a battery, EV charger, or other home energy upgrades. In this section, I'll show you how the proposal templates available through Sales Machine Proposal, how you can customize the content around the customer conversation and your brand, and how stronger imagery and broader electrification options can make the recommendation clearer. We'll also look at a quick quote for work that doesn't need a full solar design. The goal is to help the customer understand what you're recommending, how the figures were calculated, and why the quote fits their needs. Sales Machine Proposal is the customizable quote and proposal experience inside OpenSolar. It gives your team different ways to present a quote depending on the customer and the way you sell. Scroll brings the proposal together in one continuous customer journey. Swipe provides a more visual, presentation style experience. Bespoke gives your team a proposal customized around their brand, content, and sales process. These options give you a clear starting point before you decide which details and sections the customer needs to see. Let's begin with Scroll. This is a Scroll proposal. It gives the customer one continuous proposal they can move through at their own pace. Across the proposal, you can bring together the system design, equipment details, performance assumptions, savings, and payment options. That makes it easier for the customer to understand the recommendation without piecing the story together across separate documents. Once you've chosen the proposal format, you can decide what information your team shows within it. From control, purchase experience, and proposal template, you can manage the templates used across your projects. The free scroll and swipe options give you basic branding and content controls. You can apply your core brand elements and choose which figures, product details, and proposal sections appear. If your team needs deeper customization around its brand, content, and sales process, Bespoke gives you an alternative build specifically for your business. Let's look at the controls available in the free templates first. I'm going to duplicate the default template so we can make changes without affecting the original. Next, I'll select this project for the live preview. You can see the customer-facing proposal as you make changes, so you always know what the customer will see. For this customer, we may want to change the financial story. Instead of leading with net cost, we can feature total return on investment. I'll select the figure and refresh the preview. The proposal now updates with the figure we want to make more prominent. We can also choose which product details and sections appear. In this example, we can simplify the equipment section so it focuses on the battery, inverter, and panels. That gives the sales team a practical way to keep the proposal focused without rebuilding it for every customer. For teams that need to go further, bespoke proposals offer a more customized option. Bespoke proposals give you more control over the look, content, and structure of the customer experience. Here are a few examples of proposals customized around different brands and sales processes. To explore a bespoke proposal, speak with your account manager or contact support. Now let's move into Swipe. Swipe gives you a more visual, interactive way to guide the customer through the proposal. You can introduce your business, explain your services, and present the system one section at a time. That can be useful for an in-home conversation on a tablet where you want to guide the customer through the main visuals, equipment, and financial figures without showing everything at once. Swipe changes how you present the project, but both Swipe and Scroll use the same underlying system design and property imagery. Let's return to the project and look at how you can improve that imagery before it appears on the customer proposal. When free imagery doesn't give you enough site detail, you can purchase premium imagery for the project through Imagery Marketplace. Here we can select Near Map where it's available, confirm the property and purchase details, and load the imagery into the design. That gives you a clearer view of the roof, surrounding site context, which can make the proposed layout easier for the customer to recognize and understand. As with any remote imagery, check the roof faces and site conditions before finalizing the design. The layout may change after the site survey and engineering checks. Let's return to Swipe and see the updated imagery in the customer proposal. As we move through the proposal, the customer can review the system, equipment, and expected financial outcome in one guided experience. They can compare their current energy costs with their projected costs after going solar and see how those figures may change over time. Estimated savings depend on the customer's usage, rate plan, system size, export assumptions, finance option, and other project inputs, so make sure you're checking those assumptions before sending the proposal. The proposal can also support a broader home energy conversation. For example, let's say the customer is considering moving from a gas-powered vehicle to an electric vehicle. In the Energy tab, under Transportation and Usage, we can add their current annual mileage, gas, price, and vehicle efficiency. We can then add the electric vehicle and enter its expected efficiency and charging behavior. To include the physical hardware, we can add the EV charger to the system. If the charger doesn't already have pricing attached, we can apply a pre-configured adder for the equipment and installation. That adder can also be set up to apply automatically when the charger is included. When we return to the proposal, the energy and financial information updates to reflect those inputs. The customer can see their current gas and electricity costs alongside the estimated cost after moving to solar and an EV. That helps them understand how solar, battery storage, and EV charging may work together rather than treating each purchase as a separate decision. Not every job needs a full solar design. For smaller jobs, add-ons, or service work, Quick Quote gives your team a simpler way to create a line item quote. When you start a Quick Quote, OpenSolar gives you a simpler workflow focused on the quote, payment options, and customer preview. You can add a cover message, explain the scope of work, include line item discounts, and set up payment milestones or available finance options. The customer receives a clear summary of the work and pricing and can continue into checkout without your team building a full solar design. This could be used for a standalone EV charger, HVAC work, a heat pump, roofing, an electrical service, or another project where the customer needs a clear price and next step. So in this first section, we covered the different proposal experiences available through Sales Machine Proposal, how the free templates give you branding and content controls, while Bespoke supports deeper customization, and how premium imagery, EV modeling, and Quick Quote can help you explain a broader recommendation or quote standalone work. For your team, these tools mean more control over how the recommendation is presented. For the customer, they provide a clearer view of what they're buying, how the figures were calculated, and how the recommendation fits their needs. That addresses the first leak. Once the customer understands the recommendation, the next question is how they'll buy it. The second leak is the biggest one for US solar pros right now. The customer may understand the system and see the value, but they're still asking how they should buy it. In this section, I'll show how OpenSolar helps you present cash, loan, lease, and PPA options in the proposal so the customer can compare the payment and ownership trade-offs. Then we'll look at Figure as a homeowner-led HELOC option. The goal is to make the buying routes easier to compare without sending the customer into several disconnected conversations. Here the customer can see the available ways to buy the system. Cash and loan options typically lead to customer ownership. Lease and PPA options provide third party ownership routes where they're available and supported by the provider. That means the customer isn't only comparing a monthly figure, they're also comparing who owns the system, how they pay, and what the long term commitment looks like. When we select the loan option, the monthly payment becomes part of the customer's overall energy comparison. They can see the estimated loan payment alongside their expected electricity cost and estimated savings. Where the finance product provides the information, the proposal should also make the term, APR, fees, and total repayable clear. That matters because the monthly payment alone doesn't show the full cost of finance. Loan, lease, and PPAs aren't the only options customer may be considering. Some homeowners may also want to use the equity in their home to fund the project. That's where Figure comes in. Figure gives eligible homeowners a way to explore a home equity line of credit or HELOC from the proposal. Because this is a homeowner-led finance experience, there isn't a separate installer onboarding process. The funds are paid to the homeowner, so your business can continue treating the project as a standard cash sale and collect payments through the cash milestone schedule you've already set up. The customer can select check availability from the proposal and continue into Figure's eligibility and application process. That gives them another way to explore funding while keeping the starting point connected to the system and price they've already reviewed. The customer should review the HELOC rates, fees, repayment terms, and total cost before deciding whether it fits their situation. In this section, you saw how to make the customer's buying options clearer. The proposal can show cash, loan, lease, and PPA routes so the customer can compare both the payment and ownership trade-offs. Figure gives eligible homeowners another way to explore funding through a homeowner-led HELOC. For the customer, that makes the available routes easier to understand. For your team, it reduces the need to explain every option through separate documents, links, and follow-up conversations. That addresses the second link. The customer now understands the recommendation and has selected a buying route. The third leak happens after the customer makes their choice. They understand the recommendation, they've selected a buying route, but the quote can still slow down when finance, contracts, signatures, and deposit payments happen through separate links and documents. In this section, I'll show the new checkout experience. The customer reviews the selection, they complete the finance step where required, they sign, and then they pay. The goal is to keep those final steps together so the customers always know what to do next. Once the customer is ready to proceed, the proposal takes them into one checkout flow. In this example, the customer has selected a 25-year SunGauge loan and a $1,000 deposit is due. The checkout shows the selected system and payment information alongside the steps the customer needs to complete. If they leave before finishing, their progress is saved so they can return and continue where they stopped. The first step is finance. The customer starts the SunGauge application from the checkout flow and completes the information required by the lender. When the lender returns a decision, the customers can continue to the contract step. That keeps the finance action connected to the system and payment option they've already chosen. The next step is the contract. The customer can review the quotation, read the relevant terms, complete the required authorization steps, and sign digitally from their phone or computer. Once the document is signed, the completed copy can be sent to the customer and your team. After signing, the customer moves into the payment step. In this example, the $1,000 deposit is due today. The customer enters their card details and completes the payment through Stripe. That means the finance step, contract, and deposit can all be completed through the same checkout experience. Your team doesn't have to send a separate contract, payment link, and follow-up message. But once the payment is complete, the customer sees confirmation and can return to the proposal to review the next steps. That gives them a clear finish to the checkout process and helps set expectations for what happens next. So that's the flow chain. The customer chooses, They complete the finance step where required, they sign, they pay, and they see what happens next. For the customer, the next action stays clear and the process happens through one connected checkout experience. For you as the pro, the finance selection, sign contract, and payment stay connected to the project. That addresses the third leak, preventing a customer who's ready to proceed from getting held up by disconnected documents, payment requests, and follow up. To bring everything together, today has been about helping US Solar pros plug the three most common leaks between proposal and payment. The first leak is proposal clarity. The customer needs to understand the system, equipment, assumptions, expected performance, and why the recommendation fits their home. You saw how scroll, swipe, proposal controls, bespoke, imagery marketplace, EV modeling, and quick quote can help your team present that recommendation clearly. The second leak is the buying path. The customer needs to understand the difference between cash, loans, HELOCs, leases, and PPAs, including what they'll pay and who owns the system. You saw how proposal payment options and figure can keep those buying routes connected to the quote. The third leak is the final step. Once the customer is ready, finance, signing, and payment shouldn't turn into separate follow-ups. You saw how SunGauge, digital signing, Stripe payments, and the new checkout experience can connect those steps. Set up cash flow. To start using the checkout and payment tools shown today, set up cash flow inside your OpenSolar account. Legacy proposal configurations and older checkout flows will be sunsetting later this year. We recommend reviewing your setup early so your team has time to move across before a busy sales period. US Sales Toolkit. You can scan the QR code on screen or follow the link in the chat to open the US Sales Toolkit. The toolkit includes setup checklists, help center guidance, proposal and checkout resources, finance and payment information, and US regional notes for your team. Use it to work through the setup in a practical order and check each part of the workflow before you use it with customers. Signing off. Feel free to contact support if you have any questions about proposal configuration, bespoke imagery, marketplace, EV modeling, quick quote, figure, SunGauge, cash flow, or checkout. Thanks again for joining us today, and I hope everyone has a good rest of your day.